Hi there, my name is Johan Helstand and we're going to have a look at a very interesting game played today at the Berkeley Summer IMnorm tournament. With the white pieces we have Tsogtsaihan Chimeg from Mongolia, and playing black is Biyamba Uyanga, also from Mongolia. Sometimes when two players from the same country are facing each other, the game can end in a quick draw. But today this was clearly not the case. Both players were going for the full point. So let's have a look at this game. White plays e4 and black replies with the Scandinavian. Yeah, this is the Scandinavian gambit. The other option is queen takes d5, but in this case black is trying to recapture with a knight on d5. So there are several options for white here. He can play c4, he can play bishop b5 check as well. This position was actually seen in another game today at the Berkeley Summer IMnorm tournament. However, in this game white went for d4, which is perhaps the most simple way of continuing in this position. White tries to bring out his pieces and take control of the center. c4. Yeah, as you can notice, the idea of the Scandinavian gambit is to take on d5 with a knight, so as to keep the queen at home. Anyway, c4 and knight b6. Here white played knight c3, which has a natural look. Anyway, I would prefer to play knight f3 first. The difference lies in the fact that black could play e5 here. It's a dangerous gambit. If white accepts the gambit, black could swap queens, attack the e5 pawn, and later bring out the bishop and castle long. This is a very dangerous plan for white, since black will also have an idea of playing knight b4, threatening a fork on c2. So I think that white's best move would have been knight f3, and I think that black should have tried here the gambit e5. In the game, Uyanga played knight c6. So it's a good idea to develop the knight. However, white could now have played d5, attacking the knight. White attacks the knight again, and unfortunately black cannot take this pawn because white wins a whole piece by this little trick. However, in the game white played bishop e3, which is a very good move as well, developing the bishop and strengthening the center. Here black played g6. It's an excellent idea, but it's badly timed. We will soon see why. I think that perhaps e5 would have made sense again. If white advances d5, we could play knight e7 and later put our knight on f5. Well, I think this is the worst of evils at this moment. Anyway, black played g6, the good idea of fianchetting the bishop. However, white found a very strong move d5. What is black's problem here? Well, if he or she puts the knight on e5, white will play bishop d4. The knight is knight is pinned, and also black cannot simply protect the knight because white will then play f4, and now the knight has no good square. Wherever the knight goes, black will lose his bishop. So this is black's problem. He is lacking a good square for the knight. The game saw knight b8 and white played a very good move, queen d4. In this way, she's attacking the rook and at the same time preventing black's desired plan of bishop g7. At this point, f6 was possible, but of course it has an ugly look to it. So in the game, Uyanga played rook g8. White continued development, knight f3, there was bishop g7, and queen f4. Another possible option perhaps, queen h4, so as to attack the pawn on h7. Anyway, queen f4 is a good move as well. Now we can see that black has trouble developing her pieces. For example, she cannot really play knight 8 d7 due to knight b5, and there's a problem with the c7 pawn. So this explains perhaps why Saihan Chimeg put her queen on f4. So in the game there was knight a6. In this way the c7 pawn gets some extra protection. Knight g5. Yes, this is where white's trouble begin, because she already has an excellent position. She can castle either side, while black can no longer castle kings due to this rook g8 move. And also the space gained by the white pawns is important. So I think one good option here would have been to simply bring out the bishop and castle next move. For example, black plays bishop d7, I would castle, and my next move would be rook d1. This will be an extremely simple way of playing this position. White has more space and better development. Another tempting option, bishop d4 perhaps, swapping black's most important piece, the g7 bishop, the most active piece in black's camp. However, white went for a pawn hunt. Now there is a double attack at f7 and h7. But from this moment, Uyanga is playing a very good game. From this position, she will make a great comeback, starting with f6. In this way, the threat at f7 is solved, and when white takes on h7, the knight becomes a bit problematic on h7. It's not a good square for the knight. However, when white played knight g5, probably she had calculated this line. So, with this clever move, white prepares to meet rook takes h7 with bishop g6 check, winning the rook on the next move. However, black found a very nice move here, queen d6. Queen d6, so as to swap the queens. Black wants to swap the queens. For example, if white takes on d6, black would take, and if white, for example, brings out the bishop, white brings out the bishop, black would play king f7 with rook h8 next. The knight is trapped. However, she couldn't do this right away because white could go back with the knight. So this explains why queen d6 is such a good move. The white queen is important in the tactical play on the king side. So white played bishop d3, attacking the pawn. Other moves like queen f3 could perhaps be countered by bishop f5. In this way, black prevents the move bishop d3 and is ready for rook h8, attacking the knight on h7. So bishop d3, black sacks a second pawn here, because white can take on g6, intermediate move, and later on take the queen. So from here it seems that black is on the verge to losing this game. However, here comes the best move of the game. The best move of the game. Look at the white pieces. They are a little loose, aren't they? Uyanga found the astonishing move, bishop h6. In this way, the rook starts an attack at the g6 bishop, and the bishop on g6 cannot move, because wherever the bishop moves, white will lose the other bishop. So she is forced to take on h6, and black takes on g6. Now the bishop, it's easy to save it, no? We can bring it back home, but the knight remains in huge danger. White played bishop f4, and black could take a pawn on this side. However, it would let the knight survive. So this explains black's next move, king e8, sorry. Very clever move. depriving the knight of the f8 square. So now the knight is probably lost because black will play rook g7 on the next move. And there is really nothing that white can do about it. In the game, white played b3, protecting the pawn, and there was rook g7. At this moment, the knight is lost, and I think the best thing that white could do here would be to simply give it away for a pawn. Knight takes f6, pawn takes, and castles. In this position, white has 3 pawns for the piece, and there is no problem with bishop h3 because I could play bishop g3 here. So I think this position is probably quite level. Anyone can win this position, and it will be a completely different story. Now let's see what happened in the game. White played knight f8. So interesting idea. Black should not take because then she will lose the exchange. However, black found a nice intermediate move, rook g4. In this way, the bishop is attacked. And if the bishop goes to h6, black can play rook h4, attacking the bishop. And if the bishop goes to g7, well, black would play king f7. And finally, he will win one of white's minor pieces. Very clever tactical play from Bujanga. So white played here g3, and black recovered the material. Now she is 1 pawn up, so to speak. White only has 2 pawns for the piece. And also I suspect that white was a bit disappointed by the course of events. She had a very promising position, and now she is suddenly in an inferior position. f3, the rook went back home, and white castles long. I think that perhaps white should have asked herself, what does black have in mind here, and played g4. The idea of g4 would be to limit the black bishop. It can no longer go to f5. If black plays knight b4, threatening 2 forks at the same time, we could castle, and there is no problem with the forks anymore. So I think this move g4 would have been quite clever here. Anyway, the game saw long casting and bishop f5. Great move. This is the best diagonal for the bishop. It's heading towards the white king, and also whenever this passed pawn starts running, the bishop will be controlling it. g4, bishop h7, h4, rook c8. Yeah, black brings her last piece into the game, and now is probably thinking about playing knight b4. The function of rook c8 is in the first place to protect the pawn, so that the knight can move without any trouble with his pawn. White played knight b5. Yeah, this is almost like the knight g5 that we saw earlier in the game, the knight g5. I think this was not the best moment for an attack. White should have considered what to do against this knight b4 move. One idea would be to play, for example, rook h2. In this way, the rook controls the whole second rank, and if the knight goes to b4, threatening the fork on d3, we could play rook d2. Yeah, I guess black is better anyway. A pawn is a pawn, but the game would have lasted much longer. In the game, Saihan Chimbek played knight b5, attacking the a7 pawn, but her opponent reacted in the best possible way. Knight b4, very good move, counterattack. The pawns don't matter. What matters is the attack with knight e3, knight takes a2. Yeah, white took the pawn. Now we shouldn't go knight d3 due to rook takes and knight takes. This is what white probably hoped for. Here she would even have a material advantage. However, black stayed cool here and played rook a8. Now it's clear what is going to happen. This rook will invade the white queen side. White played bishop c5, bishop takes c7. Also in the event of knight b5, black would take on a2. In the game, white played bishop takes c7, that was rook takes a7, bishop takes b6. Yeah, now you can see the idea of putting my rook on h2 would have been very useful at this moment. However, it's black to move, rook takes a2, we have 1, 2, 3 pieces in the attack. It's enough to give mate. White played bishop d4, there is nothing better really, rook c2, king b1. It's time to think about how to produce the mate. In the game, black played king f7. It doesn't damage anything, but there was actually a quick mate with rook a2. We will come back to this right away. Yeah, white didn't have any better move really. And now there is rook e2 check, discovered check with the bishop. So here white resigned because there is no good move. If king c1, we will give mate by knight a2, and if king a1, we could actually choose between giving mate with the king's rook or the queen's rook. This would be one option, and this is the other one. So, a very interesting game, a great comeback win for Buyamba Uyanga. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, and see you next time.